In similar fashion, 308 asks, is God the author of confusion? Genesis 11:7-9 and 1 Corinthians 1:27 indicates that he is. However, in the same book of Corinthians, 14:33 states he is not. So Genesis 11 is about God coming down and confusing language at the Tower of Babel. 1 Corinthians 1:27 says, but God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what was weak in the world to shame the strong. The whole first chapter there is great, and I would actually say that's a presuppositional touchstone that I've actually taught on for chapter 1, talking about God using the crosses as to various people as kind of a stumbling block, but choosing it so that people don't just kind of think that they happen to stumble upon it. That's something that has to happen within someone's heart in order to change them. But that's getting off on a free sermon. Then there you go. But 1 Corinthians 14:33, which is what they're saying is the he's not the author of confusion, states that for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all the churches of the saints.
So in one hand, in the book of Genesis, chapter 11, God confuses the language, and therefore he seems to be the author of confusion. But in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 27, it says specifically, explicitly, that God is not the author of confusion. So which is it?
Yes.
Actually, that was 1 Corinthians 14.
14 is where he's not a author of confusion. Right. So Lyle calls this the specious reasoning, and goes on to say that God clearly approves of order and peace, and I think that's clear from what we get from the Old and New Testament. But does this mean that God is not able to bring confusion or destruction to those who rebel against him? And we see this in a number of times, including King David, where he allows Satan to go and tempt him into having a census that God didn't command. And so there David was relying on kind of the strength of the will of the people to kind of puff himself up and,
the number of the people, the strength of the number.
Make him kind of be in awe in the number, which Gideon's story should tell us that, you can have 300
numbers
guys.
Don't matter, right?
Yeah, they really don't. So
God and any number is a majority.
Right. Moses lifting up his hands until he needs help to holding it up, and that's what causes the army to advance or retreat. But just as God is a God of peace, he can bring war and destruction upon those who are evil. He can judge, and that's the thing. He's not only a God of peace, a God of order, but he's also a just God, a judging God, and it's one of those things where it's depending on what you're talking about, and it's not actually God kind of doing it himself. He's not going out there and taking the armies and throwing them at them. He's decreeing it by his own declarative nature, but it's within the context of people's actions that they would want to do. So that's why he's able to use the Assyrians and also judge them, because the Assyrians would go out and attack the people of God and put them into subjection.
Yeah, good. So is God the author of confusion? No, he's not.
No, but he's able to bring it about through various means.